Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my brother in crime, the most popular casting director in Salt Lake City. If you don't know him, you better get to know him. My portal into all things Sundance, before, presently, and after. You know what? I'll be honest, Andrus. I didn't even come up with like good intros today because I'm kind of my drama's kind of flaring when it comes to what we're going to talk about. But you guys know who he is. He's one of the greatest people in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Andrus.
Oh my goodness! Stop it, you all! Oh, please!
Goodness gracious!
Settle.
Goodness!
What an intro already! That's a lot to live up to. Thanks for the anxiety.
That's the terrible thing, right? Like,
and also right back at you.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'm doing good. I'm doing very well. If you guys haven't told, like, just from the title on the video, we're going to be talking about the most important, the creme de la creme, the jewel in the crown of Salt Lake when it comes to just cinemaphiles here and just the movie making community here. Well, any kind of like entertainment that goes on screen, commercial, industrial, or whatever. It all orbits around what we're going to talk about today. And I'm doing really good, Andrus, because I've been itching to talk with you about this. It's probably going to be a bit of a quick one this time around because we've been talking a lot about not really specific features that are coming about in the Sundance circuit or just in the festival circuit. I mean, as we all know, well, if you don't know, we're going to educate you today a little bit, hopefully. Some of the films that we're going to talk about just by title alone, or maybe like some of the drive that they've gotten with the Sundance Film Festival that went through, they go through the festival circuit. It isn't just Sundance, it's just that Sundance locally is the most important one. And we're talking about features that have gone through, Cannes, that have gone through Tribeca, that have gone through a lot of things, because one of the main ways that any kind of indie feature is going to get picked up and going to be able to, and a lot of, and maybe the majority of them, be able to pay off the debt that was accrued in its production is by going through the indie circuit and getting picked up by a major studio and having it, make back its money or get some recollection or some recognition really into distribution under a big studio. But I'm kind of like getting a bit of diarrhea of the mouth here. We're going to jump right into it and talk about what's going on. The bottom line that we wanted to speak about, and in my general opinion, and Andrus is going to provide a really good way of being more experienced in regards to the festival circuit here at Sundance than I am. I mean, like back in the day, I did a couple gigs at Sundance. I was recording people on the red carpet, going about with this podcast. Like back in 2018, 2019, we did a whole thing with Humberto Estrada, where we talked about like what was a Sundance movie and that kind of thing. Like, it was a pretty popular episode, but hands down, you have more experience when it comes to the pre, current, and post-production kind of a food chain when it comes to festival than I do, Andrus. And in my opinion, and given some of the sources that I've had in regards to it, people are being polite about it, but the festival this year, the 2022 Sundance Film Festival, was rough. And the problem was that it wasn't anybody's fault, really. It was absolutely taken down by the pandemic, by the plague. And the sad thing is that by the time that everything was rolling in pre-production for Sundance, we were thinking, we're going to go to Park City. We're going to go and we're going to be in the theaters and things are coming back. But right around roughly, it comes on different dates here because of the different like articles. I'm double backing on the official Sundance Film Festival website, the Wikipedia article that came about it, and this good, not an op-ed, but this article that popped up in the most popular and still living, I guess, public publication, the Salt Lake Tribune. We're going to be using that as a point of reference as well. Around roughly between the dates of like January 5th and January 12th, the organization, the Sundance Film Organization, said, "Hey, it's too dangerous. We're not going to have people coming to the theaters. Everybody, there was a combination of refunding or switching your ticket over to a virtual thing, and they had a hell of a time trying to roll out a virtual tour of the Sundance movies, something that they were able to do pretty well back in 2021. a year ago, but here it just ended up being this ended up being a big cluster of misorganization, a lot of miscommunication, because they had a turnaround from scheduled theatrical releases that people had already flown into Salt Lake for, and in a space of roughly 96 hours, they had to turn it all around, reset everything for a virtual kind of showing, and we're going to talk about a bit like how that was destructive to some of the momentum that some of these films were gathering, how even though there were some large names that came about when it came to new indie titles that came up, and maybe some recognition that they got, that ultimately, compared to previous years before the plague, it's just disheartening, because we're going to talk. We have a list here, like films we're going to talk about. Andrus and I haven't seen any of them. Well, Andrus might have seen some, but I can guarantee if you're listening to this and you're not living in Utah, if you're not living around Salt Lake, where again, movies orbit around Sundance here. People's careers orbit around Sundance here. If you happen to be a creative who's doing film and television and industrial here. A lot of these titles nobody's ever heard of, and it's specifically because of the plague and things going about. So, Andrus, let's jump into that just a little bit. So, first, if you wouldn't mind, like, this is going to be pretty, again, like kind of a short episode, but I want to get as intensive as we can in regards to it. I know a bit when it comes to the process of getting things on Sundance. Obviously, you have to make the movie, which in and of itself can be pretty rough. Indie films are not known for their big budget, obviously. But secondly, you have to go ahead and pay the appropriate fees, make sure that you have the proper paperwork in at the proper, due dates. The feature has to be of a specific length. It has to have some momentum around it, even to get considered by the jury to be entered into Sundance. And then it's just a question of, if it gets seen by the right people. Would you be able to go a bit more into detail when it comes to, as much as you can recall, doing casting, being in features that were in Sundance, volunteering for Sundance, what the process is roughly for the layman to get your indie feature shown, and what could happen if it hit it big?
Honestly, it comes down to meeting the deadlines and having a prepared product,
right,
to meet the deadlines.
Right.
So a lot of people will do their submission and maybe send in an incomplete draft by the deadline in order to then submit a final draft. I know that that's happened in the past for other festivals. I'm not sure if Sundance works that way or not, but ultimately it really is. I don't know who the jury members are or what their criteria is for selection,
right,
but I do know that that the powers that be are what has made it the success that it's been for as long as it's been around.
Right.
So for me, I would say my experience comes from the Directors Labs, and that's the program that runs during the summer, where 8 directors are basically nurtured and cultivated into the powerhouses that they will become.
Yeah.
By all of our industry's top tier talent in their respective fields. The one that was in this year's is the title, I'm going to butcher it, so I better read it. The Cow Who Sang a Song into the Future.
Yeah. Okay.
And that one is one of the films that I actually helped the casting process in for the Directors Labs.
Awesome.
When the director was here as a participant. So definitely the people that have gone through the process already have a staked interest in continuing the process.
Right.
I know several of the previous participants have entered their short films, and based on their short films, been invited back for the screenwriters labs and the producing labs and the directors labs and all of that. So definitely the best way in is the long-winded way to get around to that answer is to submit, be selected, and then continue the path from there.
Right.
You can't do it if you don't have a project.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that project has to be specific in regards to length, and it has to be specific in regards to
Right.
what it was shot on. Sometimes,
And the
and there's hoops that you have to jump through depending upon like what genre you're going to be in as well.
And there's definitely another phrase that I want to throw out, maybe as an insider, maybe not, but it's why does your story need to be told?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a question that you've asked a lot when it comes to
Are
like
you
the stuff
the
that we talk
one
about
to
here.
tell this story, and why does this story need to be told?
Yeah.
If you don't have a solid foundational answer for that, you're probably not going to.
Well, there's an interview process too. I mean, independent filmmakers, if they're trying to get Sundance in and they're rookies in regards to the process, it's like a job interview. What I've been told, it's you have to have this product and you have to sell the product like anything else, because we do have proof that some independent features can become world-renowned successes in regards to this. It can become Oscar award nominations. I mean, the Nomadland is a good example of this. We have a new director who is very capable, very intelligent. Even though, if you guys will remember, we didn't particularly like that film, but we did really enjoy the things that it was trying to do. And we have
and she won the Oscar.
She won the Oscar for it, and also got like a Marvel movie and stuff like that as well. It's like,
she was doing those simultaneoly. So yeah,
it was this weird situation where nowhere else, when it comes to well, I mean, like you always hear about these success stories in Hollywood where it's like, hey, I was like a gym teacher or something, but I knew Shakespeare, and then I went for this audition, and then wow, everything came through. Actors are
a great story.
Actors are the most optimistic people in the entire world. You guys really are, because you hold on and you're still able to day after day. That's the reason. That's why I could never be an actor. At the very most, I'd be crew. So the very least, if I worked hard enough, I'd be able to get into the union and just have like health insurance. It's so much harder for you guys, and that's why you have to branch out, and that's why I respect you so much, because I think you're a very successful working actor, Andrus, because you have the capability to adapt and do all kinds of stuff that benefits from you being an actor and also benefits your acting. But like, it's one of these situations here where you and I have talked about being in this community and being able to just shuck and jive when it comes to success stories, how complete unknowns, and some people who are local to Salt Lake, some people who are born and raised and taught in Utah. Some of the I had the great good fortune of working with a director by the name of Isaac Chung, who got great awards for a film that he did a year or two ago. That was trained here partially at the University of Utah and doing a film like that, and kind of situations in regards to how local people can gain great momentum and just build their careers. It doesn't come easy. Any kind of filmmaker, they're not meek at all. Any kind of filmmaker that makes it here at Sundance already has so much experience under their belt. It's just that this is a way in which they can get the spotlight on them and have their creativity really looked upon and applauded, as it should be. The problem with this year is that there was just such a change in the momentum, and how detrimental that was to so many people that did get awards in Sundance, but ultimately did not get the notoriety that is absolutely necessary for independent films to make it big. And it was the same thing at 2021's awards, because the capability that people had to show off their stuff wasn't as good. I mean, some may argue that it was even better because they made it easier for people to see it online.
Sure.
But when you're dealing with such a switch in momentum, when you have 82 some odd films that are aligned to be in public viewing, and then like just between, Sundance took place over a 10-day period back in January, but due to the pandemic protocol, it had to be made a hybrid festival. What I'm reading from the wiki, it wasn't a hybrid festival. They called it that, but the majority of features that were put about were put through a virtual tour. What you could do is that you could either use your ticket to gain access to this virtual tour and go ahead and watch it that way. When it comes to the way in which they deliver this from Sundance, they had a website up, and it was like this weird. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of it now, and it was like this weird thing where they had like this, I'm just going to say it, they had like this gross kind of virtual reality theater, and you have like these avatars and have like your Zoom like ID or whatever as the face, and they put it on like this avatar thing. I have no idea what the quality of the stream was when they put it out. I have no idea if you were watching it like, you know, watching it on your phone or watching it on a window the size of a stamp or something like that. And ultimately, first of all, it's this thing that I'm passionate about, Andrus, because I get a little ticked off because it's not anybody's fault. You know, right. We ran into the plague. We thought it was over. Or at least we thought it was safe enough so people.
I never thought.
Yeah, I know, right? At least we thought it was safe enough for people to actually go back
to as far as the world participating in events.
Yeah, like the traditional, and like being able to. I mean, man, I remember seeing independent films that later made it big, and just being on there, being like the first person to have seen it in a theater, and being able to say, you know what, I was there.
Special.
It's special, and also that makes it, that reinvigorates people who are in the community. It's like, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. I can make this happen, so on and so forth. And that wasn't here. They did their best to try and make it happen, but there have been opinions like on like old tweets and old points of articles that have come up where they did a better job of doing this in 2021 because they had more foresight. This is a surprise. What have you? Like I don't want to turn this into like a tabloid episode. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I don't want to make it a situation where it's like, well, you know, actor X told me that they lost blah 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 because they didn't get as many eyes on this thing as they would have if it was done traditionally, or if they even, you know, fully committed on it being virtual like they did in 2021. But like when it comes to the way in which popularity grows, it's based solely on momentum. Do you think people are rightful to be angry at the situation, even though like Sundance tried to do good on it, or were they irresponsible in the way in which they implemented this? Or, I mean, they're kind of.
I don't know that I could speak to how they did it, just because.
I mean, their hands are kind of tied. Really,
right. I mean, they're presented with an impossible circumstance, maybe foreseen, maybe not. Right.
Right.
But they're presented with this impossible task of closing, for lack of a better term.
Well, they didn't close because that would mean they'd have to refund everybody. At least this way, they were able to trade over and make it a virtual ticket.
Maybe locking down is a better way to put it.
That's a good way. Yeah.
Maybe I'll just adjust my verbiage there.
Yeah.
But I mean, so if I'm looking at it from the perspective of, if I'm running this program and I'm presented with a health risk, what do I do? What's the best possible way to do this?
Exactly.
Because I don't think any institution survives with mass refunds. I just don't.
Yeah. It's got to be a hard situation, a hard choice.
Do is adjust. And anybody that's really, really upset about the situation, I think, is just about being upset about the situation. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that's the situation at present.
Right.
So for me and my perspective, it's a serious smack in the face, and
that's got to be disappointing too.
And putting on a chopping block of sorts.
Yeah. And
everything else that it is. But my personality, my perspective is a choice of resilience and adjustment and positivity.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to say, well, okay, I'm presented with this. I may lose a crap ton of money.
There's no question. Right?
I may lose a crap ton of momentum. I may lose this. But if I'm taking stock in what I lost versus how to switch and motivate myself into a different trajectory,
absolutely,
well, then that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So
and what are you going to do? Stop? You can't stop creating. You're an indie film.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How much do these movies cost to make? If we're talking about one person's pocketbook,
right,
we're talking a house.
Yeah.
We're talking 3 houses. We're talking 10 houses or an apartment complex or whatever it is. It's a lot of money for one person.
Yeah.
Spread out amongst all of the other producers. It's not as much of a hit, but it's still a huge hit.
Yeah. And that's something that we have to take into consideration, something we've talked about before in previous shows. Where it's been like we've talked about, like, is this a Sundance movie or not? And again, I do bring up Humberto Estrada on another occasion because he actually taught me a lot about how my attitude about this was a little too I don't want to say idealistic, because I do enjoy where you're coming from. You're not going to get anywhere by being overly negative, regardless of the challenges that you're going to be dealing with.
You can't live in that.
But it's also a situation where you have to temper your optimism as well, because indie films, you're not going to be making this stuff on an iPhone. I don't care. Well, maybe
no.
there was one movie that was made on an iPhone, but
you're hiring crew. You're paying.
It's a lot. It's a lot financially, and Park City was hit by this as well, which we'll get into in a second.
And also if you're coming in internationally,
gosh,
price just went up exponentially.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to read from the Tribune article here that we found in regards to this really quickly here. Back when the festival was still going on, the Sundance Institute declared that due to a recent spike in coronavirus cases, it will be presenting its slate of 82 feature films and 49 short films online only from January 20th to 30th. Quote, "While it is a deep loss to not have the in-person experience in Utah, we do not believe it is safe nor feasible to gather thousands of artists, audiences, employees, volunteers, and partners from around the world for an 11-day festival, while overwhelmed communities are already struggling, to provide essential services," Festival Director Tabitha Jackson and the Institute's new CEO, Joanna Vincenti, said in a statement. The festival ran online only in 2021, but organizers have been planning a hybrid festival with screenings both in Park City and Salt Lake City venues, as well as online for 2022. And I want to tell you all, it all went online. All of the other venues, unfortunately, had to turn back, and it all became another virtual situation. And again, it was a huge turnaround, and a lot of momentum was lost. But to your point, you got to be positive, because here's, what else are they going to do?
Here's the silver lining in everything, right?
Yeah.
There is a stamp of approval that you get by being affiliated with Sundance.
No question.
That opens doors, that opens distribution, that opens lines of communication for other avenues of distribution. So the majority of the films that are available, I would say, because content is always in demand on Netflix, on Hulu, on all of the streaming platforms, and more platforms are coming available all the time.
Right.
There's probably never been a better time to have content to sell.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So far as silver lining is considered, you may not make the pretty penny that you wanted to make, but you might make your money back.
Yeah.
You might make a chunk of money back.
It's a gamble.
So that you can still, at least, it's always been a gamble to make films. Always. But just for the sake of distribution and the sake of forward momentum in the lane of adversity that everybody's in on this.
Yeah.
I think that that there is some light ahead in this dark tunnel that we're driving.
Well, just so that we can do our part in regards to helping out these creators and doing what we can, we will go ahead and leave a link in the description of this episode to the wiki article. They did a very good job of being able to provide us a list of documentary competition, dramatic competition, and premieres, winners that came about with the World Cinematic competition, the the midnight portion of Sundance, and also a couple spotlights. One of which, After Yang, by a director named Kogonada, with Colin Farrell, has actually been getting some good press. So you know what? Maybe we are going to see some phoenixes come from the fire in regards to this, Andrus.
You will. Yeah. You will, because there's other festivals and there's other avenues to promote. So you will. Another
thing that popped up too was, of course, getting back to that. You mentioned international travel and that kind of thing too. Park City, where the humble suburb. No, I'm kidding. It's a place where rich people go to live and ski, everybody. It's in the mountains. But it's beautiful. It is. It's beautiful, and it's a great venue. The way that Sundance works here in Utah is that the big show is going to be in Park City, but they do handle satellite theaters down here in Salt Lake and the surrounding counties, so that you can pretend to be a bigwig Hollywood producer and see a film that may end up being the Oscar winner before everybody else, right from the comfort of Taylorsville, Utah, or somewhere along the line of 13th South or something like that. Anyway, the way in which they work with Park City is that, of course, around this time of year, because it's getting close to the midpoint, I want to say, of skiing season, this is the perfect time for, just tourists and stuff coming up here. And Park City got hit hard economically because of the Sundance Film Festival not being pushed here. They're not in trouble, obviously. People are going to mask up and they're going to go outside and they're going to ski and they're going to enjoy. So I'm not going to say anything along the lines of, to the degree that, Park City is going to be rubbed off the map. That's not the case at all. But one of the things that I did find interesting when, doing a little bit of research for our episode today was just the conversation about like, hey, what if this starts happening for the next 2 years or the next 3 or 4 years or something like that? How much of a dent is this going to be putting into not only the film community here, but just the community in general? And ultimately, most experts agree there's not too much to worry about. Although, when you think about the way in which that distribution is sought after, momentum is sought after, and how this ties into like tourism, that kind of thing, when it comes to Sundance, being able to provide more butts in the seats, people at hotels, people making use of the great restaurants, and again, like the skiing and stuff up there, they are going to take a hit. Andrus, what is one of the things that you've been able to glean as to the business side of Sundance? And we've mentioned this a little bit before already. It isn't just about making movies. It can't be. That's the main thing. It's about creatives doing what they can to get their process out there and hopefully get some notoriety so they can get the money so they can become popular and they make a living. But there's a lot of business-minded strategies that come into place. And the plague has not done anything to help in that regard. How do you cope? I mean, how do you get back up from something like this when you, not just being an actor, being a casting director, being a volunteer, being a director, being somebody who works in production, gets this quick slowdown at what is, I know you've been up to your eyeballs in work, but you and I both know this is kind of a big deal around this time of year. How's it been affecting you as a businessman when it comes to the lack of momentum with this specifically?
Here's a really dumb answer for you, but it's the honest one.
Bring it.
Nothing's adjusted for me.
Yeah.
I also don't have a film that I directed or produced in Sundance.
Right.
We were lucky enough to work on Summering, which was a feature film for the family or children's category. We did the casting locally for that.
Awesome.
There's only been a few other titles that I even recognize this year.
That's been my thing too. I haven't besides After Yang, I have not recognized anything on the list.
Well, you worked with one of them last year, right? Yeah. One of the directors that was in last year. That's true. Chung. But I've consistently worked with directors that have then gone on to have their movies screen at the festival. So this year honestly isn't different because I have two that I've worked with there. So
that's great.
And that's such a surreal thing for me to say.
It's got to be, right? It has to be.
Like I can't even tell you that like one of the ultimate goals for me growing up in Utah and getting into this business and being affiliated in proximity to Sundance is having a film in Sundance.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
Now, I still haven't led a film that's participated in Sundance, but I will.
Yes.
Mark my words today, in this moment in time, it will happen. But I'm seriously in shock with how much I have actually participated in so many projects that I've gone through. And that's because I volunteered at the Institute and had such an incredible opportunity every single time to work with incredible talent. And my answer to your question, taking myself out of it, is it changes nothing but the time frame on your project.
Gotcha.
It really doesn't change anything, because if you fought tooth and nail to get your project complete and done and submitted, I don't care to what festival we're talking about now.
Yeah.
If you fought to finish your project, then you're going to fight to finish to get it distributed to
Yeah,
you.
I feel
You're just going to adapt. And I think
you have to.
I think that's where we as a race are incredibly strong. We adapt.
Yeah.
We support. We sometimes don't, but mostly we adapt and we support.
Well, everybody in the human race is going to have to adapt and overcome when it comes to, like, especially what's going on the past 2.5 years.
Literally,
creatively, from every aspect.
Every previous pandemic in our history has led us to now this moment. And here we are dealing with another one. I just
get a little. I just get a little passionate about this because a lot of people that I care about so much, you included, this is how they make their bread and butter.
Right.
I don't know I don't know as many, I don't know any, big wig Hollywood production types that are making $1 million a year. I know a lot of indie directors, indie crew members, and people who every couple of years they're able to sell an idea, and just by the skin of their teeth, get the stuff produced, and hopefully, get enough notoriety so that they can keep their careers going. It's not an easy process, and when stuff like this happens, like this year, and of course like last year, but I mean, when everybody got a surprise that was not welcome, and it just kind of hit the morale a little bit, but people still have to work. You got to pick yourself up and you got to keep going.
And you know what, going off of that statement, I'm going to retract what I said before, because it was a little bit on the whatever side of it, but
you're not a good guy. Okay. That's fine. I can realize, but
I am. I'm not going back that far. Okay. Don't take it back that far.
Gotcha.
But when I said that it really hasn't affected me, I just started thinking about it when you were saying, and I'm like, you know what? I'm affected in the sense that there isn't that camaraderie support that is normally there. And there's also a lack of that community motivation and momentum and I think inspiration to do the next project.
Isn't that's got to be such a huge thing, right?
Well, because it is. So if any of them are listening right now, that is what I am sending out to you right now. Finish, get it out, move on to the next project. Support everybody else that you can in that same light.
And I think it's like this important thing to keep in mind too, where where the police apparently are making their own movie in my neighborhood. Where even if you aren't going to, like, we've talked about this before. The reason as to why you and I are doing this is because we, well, first of all, I like hanging out with you. Secondly, I love movies and I have experience in it. There is a very large part of my life where this is how I made my money. Right. Again, though, I haven't been on a film set in a long time. I like to think that I have enough experience to be able to talk about that and have an educated opinion. And I lean on you a lot because you're still in the biz and because you're, making it work. When you think about the things that you do to contribute to this community, and I want to echo what you're saying as well, it doesn't have to be big, Pay that rental fee on Amazon or wherever, even though, well, that's a whole other bag of worms. But if you're going to, if you're going to look into some of these films, you may be surprised. If you're going to do what you can to support the artists and the crews and the directors and the actors, and you know what, even the people that were supposed to be one of the 1,500 employees or temporary at Sundance who are going to get paid for helping you find the right theater or something like that. Watch some of these things. Allow yourself to be inspired. Go through and find a new favorite director, a new favorite actor, a new favorite kind of story, a new favorite genre. We're going to put a link for the Wikipedia page in the description. I invite everybody to go about and just check out some of these movies because that's what I'm going to do. And if you can go ahead and pay the rental fee, or if you can go ahead and if you think it's really something along your line, maybe like buy the digital copy or whatever, do it, because it's going to be able to help a lot of people who their creative capability may not have been smashed this year or last year, but I guarantee it definitely was slowed down. And if there's something that we can do to just be entertained and be able to make it so that people understand that there's a living in doing this, and that we don't have anything to worry about in that regard, quite honestly. But there's nothing wrong with getting a bowl of popcorn, renting a Sundance Film Festival award winner, or maybe not, maybe one that was just aired there, and you're just curious, and allow yourself to be entertained. Maybe allow yourself to be inspired. But that's pretty much it, guys. We do appreciate you letting us rant on a little bit about this. It wasn't like completely unforeseen. It was just a quick gear change, and from what we hear through the grapevine and some of the things that we've read, it was unexpected, and because of that, it just became really unfortunate. But we do appreciate the fact that you allowed us to talk about it a bit. Something I've been wanting to talk about for a minute, and again, it's not a situation where you have to worry too much, thankfully, but it is something where it's just a little disappointing. And if we're not here to talk about some of the bad things that happen with entertainment movies in the Salt Lake City area, then what are we even recording this stuff for? I mean, this is something that we're passionate about. We want to talk about it. But by all means, if you think that I'm just worrying too much or making too much of a big deal about it, maybe I'm being just super melodramatic. Maybe that's it, and it's annoying the hell out of you. Well, I can let you know that if you have feelings about that, remember, we may be wrong, but it's your job to tell us. Really do appreciate you guys listening. Feel free to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, email us, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. Andrus, thanks again so very much for the quick conversation. I know it wasn't like a really long one, but I just wanted to get this, shoot this out there, and then like next episode, we'll go back to talking about a movie and being able to get back to our roots a little bit. But I really do appreciate you humoring me and giving me like a bit more of an inside thing. I lean on you a lot, man, when it comes to like especially Sundance because of your experience with it. So thank you for letting me pick your brain about it, brother. I do appreciate it.
It's been fun.
Absolutely. You guys take care. Be good to one another, and we'll see you next time. Bye.